We're back, everybody. Sarri Gilman, it is such a pleasure and thrill to welcome you back to Awakening Aphrodite podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Amy, it's been a while.
I know, right? As I said in the intro, I couldn't believe it when I had to prepare for the intro that I had to go way back in the archives of number 32 for your first appearance. I was a newbie in the podcast world, and boy, you were on my dream list of guests to have on my show because, like I mentioned in that show, your book, Boundaries, was just a total game changer for a reforming people pleaser like me. And to this day, it has been one of the most impactful books. And I do not say this lightly because I spend all my money on food and books. And well, now animal care, but food and books. I have a lot of books, but your book was just epic for me. And that episode was just, like I mentioned when we were chatting, I still say to myself, I am not responsible for someone else's feelings. I'm like, just so many sorryisms. Is that a word?
Oh.
Right?
I love that.
That I have in my brain, thanks to you.
I love that those words go with you.
Right.
And that it gives you the courage. And, I think our boundaries are always in process. We're always getting tested. We're always, and the more exhausted and overwhelmed that we get, the harder it is to be clear. So I'm glad that there's a couple of phrases that just stay with you. That gives me great peace.
Someone like you, Sarri, it's just important that you know that I am just one of probably legions of people that feel that way about your work, that you're never going to hear about, that you have positively helped and affected. But again, you're just not going to know about it because, I don't know. I'm just so grateful to have found you. And again, all the people pleasers and, women are classic for we come last and, and we're going to talk about self-care today. And why is that so darn hard for us? And what is that all about? And how do we love ourselves better? How do we take loving care of ourselves without guilt, feeling good about it? And so we can be our best. And that's the bottom line, right?
Yes, and we got to have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like it isn't just going to happen for us.
Right.
If we're waiting for the self-care fairy to show up and get us moving, it's just never going to happen for us. Like we have to get ourselves into our own schedule. And the more challenges we have in life, and many of us have lots of challenges, the more challenges we have, actually, the more self-care we have to do. Like I watch people who, the more challenge they get, the lower their self-care goes. It's like, no, the math sentence goes this way. The more challenges we have, the more our self-care needs to go up. And it can't go up if you're never on the list. You don't have a plan. You have no idea what you're doing for it. And so I think that's what our conversation is about, how you make that plan for yourself.
This is such an important point. I've heard you say this before, and maybe before we get into the plan, which you're 100%, it's like doing affirmations with no plan to make it happen. You can't just say it, right? You've got to, as the Quakers say, pray and move your feet. Like, okay, you got to boots on the ground, make it happen. Like, you can't just be like, I'm wonderful. It's just whatever. But my point is, I've heard you say, and this is tricky, okay? As we get overwhelmed and more is on our plate and the more we're stressed out and like the unexpected tragic thing happens or whatever, the first thing out the window is our workouts, is taking the time to make a healthy meal, is getting to bed because you got only so many hours in the day. And next thing you know, it's 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. You're still doing laundry, dishes, whatever, because you didn't have time earlier. It's like the first thing out the window. I'm not taking a bath. I gotta, wash the kids, whatever, So how do we do that? It's so ironic that's the time when we need it the most.
Yes. And I actually spend time working with people that need it the most. That's like kind of who I work with. I'm going to be doing a presentation next week with parents from around our state in Washington, where I am, who all have kids with special needs. You think they have time for self-care?
Right.
Do you think they need self-care?
Right.
Right?
They're probably they're not even last on the list.
I work with people who have the hardest time getting to it. And I am here to say that there are ways to do that. There are ways for us to get to ourselves in the face of incredible challenges. And I work with the people that are very challenged to do it. And I watch them make progress. I watch them change their lives in ways that they can't even believe. And sometimes, honestly, Amy, I worked with a woman who I didn't recognize her 3 years later after she came to a boundary workshop because, as your listeners know, I help teach people boundaries. And I had her for 1 weekend in a boundaries workshop. 3 years later, I see her on the street. I didn't recognize her. She came up and she threw her arms around me. And I was like, who is this? And then she says, it's me. And she gives me her name. And I'm like, you look like a completely different human being. And she said, well, that's because I started taking care of myself.
Right.
And when you take care of yourself, it shows.
100%.
Right?
Yes.
When you meet people, Amy, can you tell if they take care of themselves or not just by looking at them sometimes?
And you know what's funny? Sorry, it's not even about those that are the most put together with the perfect makeup and the good outfit. It's not that, right? Like interestingly enough, we're not talking about that, like the best clothes or any of that. It's not that.
It's the shining spirit.
Yeah.
It's the light in their eyes.
Yeah.
Right? It's the glow that comes off of them.
And the way they feel when what they're doing to your nervous system, like, do they feel, right? Like, do they feel centered?
Nailed it.
Yep. Yeah. Right. It's like it's definitely the glow for sure. But it's kind of the unexplainable,
a sense of calm
feeling to your nervous system that you get when you're around someone like that.
Right. And when I'm around people that are hyper jacked up, they just sound like they've had way too much coffee and they're talking really fast. I know that there's something going on with their self-care, that there's some level of self-neglect. And it's not about, you're right, the makeup or what kind of clothes you have. Because honestly, I've worked with some very well-heeled, put together people who are so distressed in their lives. And it has nothing to do with how we look on the outside. I think you just said it very well. It's how you feel on the inside. And self-care helps you take care of how you're feeling on the inside. And whatever's going on in your life, we don't always feel good. We feel grief. We feel worried. We feel anxious. We feel lots of things. But self-care is about how you take care of those feelings.
Okay, let's go there. Because one of my questions is going to be just a fundamental. How do you, Sarri, define self-care?
I've now taken to calling it self-repair.
Nice.
I've added that in to self-care, self-repair. I think self-care is self-repair. It's how we care for ourselves from the inside out. It's how we tune into ourselves and listen to ourselves and pay attention to what we need, and how willing are we to give ourselves what we need when we need it. I'm going to repeat that. It's how we give ourselves what we need when we need it. We have needs that come up all the time during the day. And a lot of times we postpone ourselves, or we go, I'll drink that water later. Or I don't have time to go to the bathroom in between this meeting and that meeting. Right? You're nodding. Have we all been there? Let's all raise our hands.
I think I did that a couple hours ago.
Right?
Yep.
every time I hear myself say to myself, oh, I got to pee. Oh, I'm not going to pee. I got another thing online right now.
Hold on,
I then say, whoa, 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 go to the bathroom. Take your 2 minutes. They'll wait. It'll be okay. You're not harming anyone. Go to the bathroom. When I catch myself ignoring what I need, that is when I am tamping down my own self-care. I don't need other people to take my self-care from me. I take it from myself very well, and so do all of you. So it's about paying attention to what I need and then being willing to give myself that. As a therapist, I hear from people a lot in my office say, I can't do this for myself. Everybody needs me. The phone is ringing. People are hurt. Family members. There's things going on. I don't have time to do the very basic thing that I want to do for myself. And I say, what is it that you need for yourself? And they say, I just need to sit down and have like a quiet 10 minutes and read a book. I'm like, and you cannot let yourself do that. Sometimes 10 minutes with a book is self-care.
What do they say?
They say, I can't figure out how I have time. I don't have time. If I hear one more person say, I don't have time, you do have time. We all have time. It's how we use it. We all have the same amount of time. You're not going to get more time. People are not going to stop needing you.
Yeah.
Things are not going to keep not showing up at your door. It's a matter of how you use your time and saying, I am allowed to give myself 10 minutes. My big epiphany many, many years ago was, I'm allowed to have lunch.
Right. Not at my desk.
Not at my desk.
Right.
I am allowed to sit down and have a non-working lunch and play with my dogs and just have lunch. It's not complicated. It's a real simple meal, but it gives me so much joy every day. I'm having lunch. I used to not have lunch. I'd be running between things, maybe throwing something in my mouth in the car, waiting till I was crashed starving, right? And then opening up a bag or a box frantically of whatever, right? Oh, we've all been there.
100%.
Doesn't
While driving. Don't forget that part.
Absolutely. While driving and talking on the phone at the same time.
100%.
Yeah. Or talking to a kid at the same time. It's I actually have time for lunch. Yeah. So I just want to say that when you realize you can't do everything in a day, none of us can. We're all going to die with a to-do list that's not finished.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
We can't get to the list of everything every day, but still we make a list of all the things we're going to do that day. But put yourself on the list and decide that there are a couple things that have to happen in the day because you have a body. Right. And one of those things is eating. Where does that happen? What would be a pleasant way to feed yourself? How do we make our self-care moments pleasant for ourselves? And what is it that we need? I mean, Amy, you and I need different things in our self-care list. So I came up with this thing called the self-care wheel.
Love it.
And I call it a wheel because at any point you could be anywhere on the wheel. It's not a straight line. You're not always in the same place in your self-care needs. And everybody needs, and so you make a wheel, you make a circle, and on that circle, you divide your circle in half. Now you have 4 pieces. If you are just beginning self-care and you really feel like you have none, don't do more than 4 pieces on your wheel.
Okay.
If you do a little bit of basic self-care, you might want to grow and get into a 6-pie self-care wheel, but don't go past 6 pieces on your wheel. So you're either at 4 if you're just beginning, or you're at 6 because you have a little more experience. But everybody on their self-care wheel in one part of the pie has something called sleep, eat, and exercise. This is your foundation. If you do not have sleep, eating, and exercise, the basics, you're not really ready for all the other pieces of your self-care. This is the foundation. This is the ground that you stand on. So I like everybody to know, recognize when you need to come back to your foundation and strengthen it. If you've had 2 nights of no sleep and you were waking up in the middle of the night and there was a crisis in your family and you were getting calls at 3 a.m., you might need to pay attention for the next whole week to just your sleeping and get yourself back sleeping. Your nervous system may need to be reset from that. You may feel like you got thrown off from taking your daily walk. Maybe your exercise was thrown off, whatever it was. Maybe you didn't eat well that week because you were visiting someone in a hospital and you were eating hospital food. Whenever you get thrown from that foundation, pay attention to that and bring yourself back to healthy self-care habits of sleep, eat, and exercise. Then beyond that, you and I need different things. Some people are introverts. They don't need a whole lot of social going on their self-care time, right? Someone like me, I have a lot of friends that I want to see and spend time with. So what I have for social on my self-care is on my calendar, I have little blocks of time, and they're in like 2 to 3 hour windows. 3 of those I'm allowed to give away socially in a week. Any 3 I want. But once those 3 are done, I'm done socially for the week. So if somebody says, hey, you want to grab a cup of coffee? I look at my calendar. Are my 3 blocks full for the week? If they are, I say, oh, we have to look at next week or the week after. That helps me because I'm actually measuring how much time is going out to others. And for me, the social is part of my self-care. It's a connection. It's a relationship. But I could feel like I've given away all my time and I don't have time for my other self-care parts because I also work full-time. I do other things. So I don't have unlimited time, right? Socially. So another part of my self-care is I like to do a lot of artwork. I don't know if that's on your self-care, Amy, because maybe you do something else that gives you great satisfaction. What do you do for satisfaction, like deep self-care satisfaction?
Definitely walking in the woods with my dogs. It's a big thing. Grounding literally with my feet. I started a long time ago having lunch outside. With the exception of probably January and February and a little bit of March, I just wasn't able to do that because I couldn't feel my fingers in order to lift the fork. But it was just so cold. I'm up in New England. But yeah, lunch outside all the time. Without exception.
So these would be on your self-care wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And since Amy has described it as a habit, like you do this.
Yep.
Each year, I have people make a new self-care wheel, and we don't put on it things that we've really mastered. Like, because now Amy knows she doesn't need a reminder to go outside and have her lunch. She knows she goes outside and she has her lunch. That's like a thing. She doesn't need a reminder to walk in the woods with her dogs.
That's right.
She gets grounded and she does that, and the dogs need a walk and they take her for a walk. Yeah. And if her life got disrupted or she was away traveling and didn't get that time, when she comes back, she might need to reground with her dogs.
Right. And I'd miss it. I would be looking forward to it because the other day I was in a webinar and I wasn't able to have my lunch outside because it was during that time I was able to eat. So I had to eat which is kind of, again, I never do this, but I had to watch it while I was eating. And I didn't even enjoy, I can guarantee you, I didn't even assimilate the nutrients in my food as well because my body wasn't as happy. I was behind a computer inside, and that was my thing. I like to eat outside, and I like to look at the birds and listen to them sing and watch them fly and feel the sun and have my butt get dirty on the grass. And, it's all part of my eating ritual. It's a way for me to nurture my body, not only with the nutrition of the food, but the nutrition of nature. It's a whole body experience when I have my
Now,
lunch.
what I want to know is for everybody listening, how many of you now want to go eat outside?
Right?
Everyone.
Me.
Because self-care is contagious. We hear how Amy does it, and now we want to do it.
I like
So
that.
this morning, my dog walk was not in the woods, although I do live around a lot of woods, but my morning walk, Amy, is at the beach.
Oh, nice.
I live 2 blocks from the beach, and it's a beach where there's very rarely people. And I call it taking an ear bath, where I just listen to the water.
Love it.
And the sound of the water and the seagulls and the eagles flying overhead, but really it's the waves and the water gives me an ear bath. And since a lot of my job is spent listening, I need to have time where I get to kind of cleanse my ears from listening to talking.
Yes. And receive, because you're giving so much. Listening is a form of giving, because paying attention and really listening to someone takes a lot of energy and focus. So you're giving your energy when you listen. So you are now receiving back full circle. There's your self-care, like you said, from the ocean, from nature, and getting that energy back to yourself. Brilliant.
That's right. And some people get that walking in the woods with the trees, right? And I get it being by water. And so we all have different self-care needs. But what I want most people to understand is that our self-care needs are multisensory.
Okay.
That's why you love your lunch thing so much.
Right.
Our self-care needs are about us returning to being a human being. And we are sensory beings. And we are made to be wired for the sky outside. We're not made to be wired in front of computers all day. That's not how our brains are designed. We are set up to be outside. And we have all these senses for tasting and smelling and touching. And as long as your self-care takes you into using your senses, you're doing something good for yourself.
Okay, good to know.
So some people, will have cooking on their self-care. That getting time in the kitchen, chopping and dicing and smelling, and then getting to eat a wonderful meal that they've prepared, like they're all about it. Yeah, and that's because it's multisensory.
See, what I'm hearing you say, basically, in another way of putting it, Sarri, is it's a way of embodiment. It's a way to get out of your head and into your body, which is your sensations. Touching, tasting, smelling, feeling. Like, when do people even smell anything other than smelling the milk to see if it went bad, Like, we don't even smell anymore, Like, use your senses, because they get rusty, but they're there for a reason. These are sources of information.
That's right. That's right. So there's your secret sauce of, once you're really tuned in, you can hear more and more of what you need.
Right.
Because you're tuned inward and you can honestly hear from yourself, oh, this is what I need. This is why this helps me.
And you're cutting off potential sources of pleasure, because to smell something good is pleasurable. Like, you're not even receiving that, to feel something. Like, when do you feel the shirt on your skin? Is it nice organic cotton? Is it soft, or is it itchy, or is it restricting you? Like, feeling could be a source of pleasure. So you're cutting yourself off from all these potential sources of pleasure. Most of us feel pretty much the taste one. And to, if we felt the other ones more, maybe we wouldn't rely on taste so much, because we'd be getting pleasure from other sources that are available.
That's right. That's why people who knit they're having this multisensory experience with this very soft yarn through their fingers. They're using their hands and they're feeling this softness. And then they're also getting this meditation bump, which research has shown that knitting is the only thing that replicates meditation.
Really?
For the brain.
I never knew that. That's so cool because I know you knit. You crochet, right?
I knit. Yes, I'm a knitter.
Knit. Okay.
That big white cabinet behind my head is filled with yarn.
Cool.
As well as my entire upstairs. So having these sensory experiences is what's so important. But another place on your wheel is how you retreat and rest. And differently than sleep. But what do you do to retreat with yourself? And what gives you a rest from all the busy? How do you take a real break? I don't think a lot of people in our culture even know what the word rest means.
And if they answer that, I would bet you dimes to dozen, the majority would say something, well, I collapse on the sofa at about 10:30 and watch Netflix or something like that to try to be entertained, to get their brain out of the everyday whatever and just a little escape,
That's right.
That's probably the majority of us.
And so thinking about what kind of retreat do you give yourself and when do you just stop doing, but not necessarily need something done in front of your eyes? I mean, if that is the only retreat and break that you take, and it's always with Netflix, and it's always at the end of the day, and it's always because you're too exhausted for anything else, I really want you to ask yourself, are there other ways you can also take breaks? Like, challenge yourself to try different things. One of my most relaxing ways to retreat is to read total escape books. I love that.
Okay, give us some referrals. What books do you like?
Oh my God. Brilliant. I'm gonna confess something. Okay. So I am a lifelong reader. I love reading. I read nonstop and I pretty much read memoir. I'm a therapist, so I like real stories. Okay. If I watch something, I like to watch a documentary.
Yeah. Same.
So I'm like kind of all in the real story thing, but in the last few years, I discovered this book called Fourth Wing. Have you read this?
No, I'm going to get it because I need these escape books.
Okay, the word is romantasy is what it is. It's about like magic and dragons and kind of a war college with young people saving their world. I mean, we're in another place. I've never read romantasy, but I could not put this book down. It was just a nonstop tear through the series. And then I had to wait a year for the final to come out in the series, which I just read. And now she set us up for like another book. But the series is fabulous. And I just read a memoir that was also incredibly peaceful. It's called Raising Hare, Hare. It's about a woman in England who had this little hare, a rabbit, move in with her, like adopt her from the wild.
Nice.
And the story is, that's it. It's soothing.
Yeah.
It's calm.
Touching.
Her writing is gorgeous. It's heart touching. Mm-hmm. It's like taking a deep breath.
Oh my gosh.
In a place where suddenly you're in her little cabin with her and this rabbit for the whole book. It's incredible.
Cozy.
So I'm looking for books that, kind of make you feel good or escape or feel wonderful or, I don't know. I'm an adventurous reader. I'm willing to try different things. I also really love Reese Witherspoon's lists of books. So she keeps a pretty good book list going.
Good to know.
So that's one of my retreats and one of my restorative things is that I got to read, but I'm also willing to try new things. So I think it's really important for people to keep adding on to your self-care. Like I have really good self-care practices that are just nailed in. But I'm also willing to try new things and keep adding on to my list of options for self-care. One of the things I've added on lately was hot yoga with my adult daughter.
Wow, you go, girl.
I know.
That's no
She was
joke.
like, Mom, you could just take a power nap in it, if it's too much.
Yeah,
And I was like, yeah, because it's like power hot yoga.
Yeah, it's no joke. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do body pumps. So I was kind of fit for this.
Yeah.
And more fit than she or I expected.
That's
and it
awesome.
was great. And now I'm like, hey, I'd like to come in more and do that with you. So I found like a way to connect with her, which I love. That's time with my adult daughter.
We do it together.
And doing exercise and taking on a new form of exercise. So I love that. I love expanding what I know how to do and learning new skills. And I like learning as a place on my self-care wheel because I like taking a class or something that gives me structure. I always say to people, if you really feel like you have no self-care, please don't do this alone. Go get yourself some structure. Sign up for a class. Participate in a group. Get yourself a trainer, whatever it takes. But don't do this alone. Because if you have a little bit of a structure, a little bit of accountability, maybe you're going to go to an Al-Anon meeting. That's a structure right there. It's a group. It's free. Maybe you want to be in a book club. Go to your library. Every library has book clubs. You can sign up there. It's free. Find things to be part of where you don't have to set up all the structure. You don't have to make all the plan because honestly, that's a piece of work too, is, figuring out how to get all that done. As you heard me just say, I take a body pump class. That means I don't figure out how I'm going to lift weights. I just show up in the class with my shorts on. And all the equipment is there. The teacher is there. She yells at us through a microphone.
Yep.
Right. And I just do what she says. I don't have to figure out how am I going to exercise. I know what time the class is. I know I show up. And nothing gets happening until after I've done my class. Because I've also know about myself. I don't exercise at night. Some of you do. But not me. If it's not first thing in the morning, it didn't happen.
I'm not a 6 a.m.er anymore. I used to be. I used to teach classes then, but I'm same though. I can't tell you how many times I've said, well, I just run out of time in the morning and then I miss that window, so I miss it. I'm like, well, you know what? I'll do it later tonight. I don't think that's ever happened in my entire life that I actually did do it later. I've always been a morning person. So, but you got to know yourself, right? And then
Amy, how are you going to know yourself unless you listen to that part? And that is such a great example of, you realize that never happened. So don't say that to yourself.
That's right. I stopped I'm like, okay, I guess it's my day off.
Right?
And I don't beat myself up.
And you can do that. You can take days off. That's self-care too.
That sure is.
Hey, give myself a break. Mm-hmm. You don't need a break every day as your day off.
Right.
But maybe you do, depending on what kind of job you have in the world. But giving yourself a break, that too is self-care.
100%. It's all about the balance, right? Knowing, okay, I've had enough breaks. It's been about a couple months of breaks now. It's time to work out. But Sarri, I can't let you go without getting your advice on people that feel the need to justify their boundaries. And this has to do with self-care. Let's just say,
of course,
okay, a friend or whatever wants to get together and that's the time you had in your block to do your bath. You're having a cup of tea and reading your new novel, your romantasy book or whatever, et cetera. And you feel like it's not good enough reason why you really, it's really a no, you don't want to, but you feel like you need to give a reason. And unfortunately, in your own mind, you don't have a legitimate reason as a no, I got to take the kids to soccer. That's a legitimate one, but it's your self-care. So you feel bad and you don't want to lie, but at the same time, it's a no. So how do we get around feeling like, why can't we just say, I'm so sorry, I can't do that, but I could do next week, and that's it, and not go the extra sentence of the justification of why you can't?
Yes,
how do we get around
please don't give your excuses.
Right.
You don't need to write an excuse note. Please excuse Amy and Sarri from coffee next week because they had something else. No, don't give us your excuse notes. Nobody needs them. Just say, oh, I'm not available. Like when I look at my blocks of time, I can see that, nope, that's my time to do body pump. I get invited never to do the stuff that's for me. Of course, we all do. We all get requests. When I get people that want to do this, they want to have an interview, but it's during my body pump class. And I don't say, oh, I do body pump. Sorry, can't connect with you. I just say, not available at that time. What else do you have? Here's what I can offer. I am not willing to sacrifice the commitments I make to myself because no one else is going to give me that time. No one's going to say, hey, Sarri, would you like to stop and read a book today for like 20 minutes? No one in my personal life, no one that I know. Let
me do the laundry, dishes, this and that, so you can go read your book. Like, that's not going to happen.
Never going to happen. And so since I know that I'm never going to be invited to do the self-care that I need, that's something that only I can give myself. And so other people are going to always invite me to do things during the time that I set aside for something that I need for me. And so those are non-negotiables in my book. And a good way to keep your non-negotiables is not to always pick up your phone. Not to always immediately respond to your email. Take time to think about it when somebody writes you a text or an email and says, hey, you want to get together on Saturday? There's a really fun thing happening. Don't respond right away, because you might go right into people pleasing, or you might go into, that sounds fun, let's join you, and not think about, did I already sign up for a yoga class on Saturday mornings that I committed to? Was that my only 3 hours to myself of this entire week? Was I actually going to have some time alone? Think before you respond. Take time. Don't respond to any requests or invitations immediately. Take time. Give yourself a day. Give yourself till the end of the day. If you feel like, no, they have to know, then give yourself till the late afternoon. Give yourself hours to think about, how does that land for me based on what's going on in my self-care? Or maybe I didn't have anything planned, but maybe I need some self-care once I've checked in and I've realized, hey, I need that walk in the woods. I don't really need to be at the parade downtown.
And your self-care wheel helps give that structure where we can, before we reply to something like that, we can look at our self-care wheel and see, to make my wheel complete this week, I really need that time to do this part of the wheel. And so I have to say no, because if I said yes to that, I can't do this. So it gives you the framework to know what you need to make the time for, like what's missing, what's not missing.
Exactly. It's a way to stay checked in with yourself. And what people see over time, and if you need more detail on the self-care wheel, I do have it for free up on my YouTube site. And so you can look at different years, because I do it every year.
It's great.
And you can really dive into detail if you need a lot more than what Amy and I are covering right now. But it's about developing a habit with yourself. That is not in those videos. This is in our conversation. You develop a habit with yourself and you develop commitments over time. Your self-care is not instant oatmeal. This is something that you've grown, that you've nurtured, And that changes based on your needs. And only you know what you need. Your friends calling you to do stuff, work commitments inviting you to stay extra hours. Nobody else out there knows what you need. Only you do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how do we get around feeling selfish or self-centered as opposed to loving ourselves?
I love that. Most people are not selfish.
True.
And probably the people listening to your podcast are not filled with selfishness, because I know you, Amy, and I know the kind of people that are probably attracted to you are probably people that give and care and connect. And you can't really catch selfishness. Selfish people come from a selfish place in everything they do. There's kind of this agenda of selfishness. And you can't take someone who is caring and connected and cares about others and make them become selfish. That's never happened in the history of humanity. You don't catch selfishness. It's not contagious. So when you're doing self-care acts, that doesn't mean that you're selfish. Selfish people aren't aware of others. They don't think about what other people need. That's what selfishness is.
Okay.
So doing self-care has nothing to do with selfishness, because doing self-care has to do with taking care of yourself, showing up for yourself. It's not about ignoring the needs of others. I can do self-care, and I can also be very aware of the needs of lots of other people. One doesn't conflict with the other. But if I were a selfish person, I would never be aware of anybody else's needs around me. I don't know if you've ever gone to an airport and stood at the point where, when you're boarding the plane, they start calling your sections.
Yep.
And you can see who the selfish people are, because I stand there in the group, right? I'm in big huddle with everybody else, and we're all trying to get to the same destination. We all want to board the airplane, right? And you're standing and you're kind of in some sort of a disorganized order. And then suddenly this guy comes up. He just sort of pushes in front of everybody. Oh, you just did it with your shoulder.
Yeah, with the shoulder.
And suddenly puts himself right in the front. Everybody else is trying to get to the same place, right? He's got no special pass. His number's not been called. But now he's going to be first. That's what selfish looks like.
Okay.
Other people are standing in that same group, looking at each other and seeing the woman who's standing there holding her cane and saying, oh, can you go first? Did you board with the early boarders? And the mom with the two kids hanging off of her going, here, do you need a little more space? Can I help you with your bag? Right?
Yeah.
That's the difference right there. And you can still do self-care and be somebody that cares about others.
Yes, that's right. They're not mutually exclusive. Okay.
Did that answer it?
100%. I love that analogy too. I got a big flashback the last time I took a flight. So there's always one guy. All right. So place to start as we get toward the end here, place to start for the person who just is the super overwhelmed, back to your expertise. I love that you're dealing with the people that need it the most, by the way, and just desperately need a little bit of TLC for themselves, but honestly are just out straight all the time, trying to keep their head above water. Do you have because I know you said in the beginning, it's about a plan. Do you have a general guidance for them? Okay, I just want you to start with 2 10-minute sessions a week. What are the guidelines for someone to just at least get started with something? Because I'm talking to the person who really isn't doing it at all.
Right. So I like them to start with 2 minutes of meditation.
Okay.
2 minutes.
And what do you
in
mean
a
by
day.
meditation? Because there's all that.
By
That's a lot of
just
different
sitting in a
things.
very comfortable chair, wherever you
Okay.
are, and closing your eyes and breathing in for 2 minutes. You can do this on the toilet if you need to,
That's
but
nice.
you could do it in your bathtub. You don't have to sit in any fancy position, but I want you to close your eyes, shut out all the noise, and not listen to the lists in your head of what you should be doing. And then each week, I want you to add a minute on.
Ooh.
Slowly add on and see how far you're able to let yourself get up to for just quiet.
Nice.
The other is to look at your foundation, sleeping, eating, and exercising. Can you improve in those 3 areas of your getting a more solid foundation underneath you? What do you need to make your bed more comfortable? Do you need to clean up your bedroom? Do you need some sleep hygiene? Do you need to stop drinking coffee at 2:00 in the afternoon so you can go to sleep at night when you lay down? What do you need to do to improve your sleep? What do you need to do? What's 1 or 2 things that you can improve your eating? Is it pre-cutting up some carrots? Is it changing what time you have your snack? Is it carrying food with you? What is it that will improve your eating? What is it that will get you to begin moving your body? Is it just taking a walk up the street for 1 day? Doing it twice a week? What we want to build is some kind of habit so that it's like after dinner, I step outside and I walk 1 block. We want
This
to
is what I do. Yep.
a habit.
Yep.
And so you've got to look at which of those areas can you improve on? Because if you haven't been doing self-care, there's plenty to improve in the foundation, and just begin with the foundation.
That's so brilliant and so
if you need help with the
effective.
structure, I like people to come up with their own sort of, what do you need? Because sometimes they'll say, I just want to read my magazine. Comes to the house and I've never opened it. It's like, okay, that would be great. What time of day can that happen? How can you commit to show up for that? Getting people to get themselves onto their list and not be so distracted. And honestly, Amy, as you say this, it makes me realize people are more distracted than they've ever been.
Oh, God, yeah.
Right?
Mm.
And we're competing for our own self-care with our phone.
Oh, God, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's like something instantly to scroll through and look at. It's so addictive.
It's demanding. It's like you mentioned, it takes you out of yourself and you feel obligated. I don't know what it is with this culture, but when the phone started with the whole texting crap and everything, it's like people expect an immediate reply. Like, when did that happen? I remember back in the day before phones that, we would have an answering machine pick it up or whatever, or would just ring, and it was like, I can't come to the phone right now. Whatever I'm doing. But now it's like people are culturally expect an immediate reply, like either you're being rude or you're ghosting them or you're whatever. And I have a lot of people in my life who now realize, like, I'm not going to reply to you right away. And it's not anything against you or your request or anything. It's just, I just don't do that. I will get to you when it works for me. I mean,
exactly.
I'm not a jerk about it, but
I don't want everybody to reply to me right away.
Right. But the word, but
like,
sorry, we're unique though. Like I've had people say, like, the here come the slew of texts, like, are you okay? Are you okay? What's the matter? Why haven't you responded or whatever? It's like, no, I'm working and then I've this and that. And then I'm out with the dogs. And then, I'll get back to you tonight when I have my own free time. Like, it's not I got your message. I don't know, but it's just this weird cultural expectation that we feel obligated.
That's right. And part of self-care is about not trying to manage everyone's expectations.
Right. We're not responsible for their feelings. That's what I learned from you.
And you're not responsible for their expectations.
Ooh.
You have to look at your own. Yeah. My coming to all of that work is what I've written about in this book, Cocoon. It's my memoir.
Let's talk about that.
And Well, we have the boundary book for those who need boundaries.
Transform Your Boundaries, the classic that changed my life.
The classic. I love that. And
It's
now I have Cocoon, which is a memoir about a shelter that I started for kids and how much I was torn with my boundaries and with caring for others and all the demands. And ultimately, what I learned in that experience, and it's also about my relationship to a lot of really special kids. And it'll make you cry. Oh, I'm warning you now. Everybody has told me they cry all the way through this book. But it's also the hard work of how we get to ourselves in the midst of many needs in front of us. And that's what everybody is facing. Many needs are in front of you. How are you going to get to you? And I think you're asking your listeners to really pay attention to themselves, and you're telling them that you value them by doing this. You know, you're not trying to say to them, hey, I only value me. You're saying, I invited Sarri on because we're going to talk about this because I value you.
True. And I would have loved to have used this whole time to get a personal session from you, but I wanted to get the recording to share it with everybody else and not be selfish because I just know the world needs it so much. I mean, my gosh, it's like the remainder of my work, and mark my words, will be about helping people, particularly women, get to the place where it's just beyond self-love, where they feel their own inner beauty. They feel the essence of who they are. They love themselves in the way that is just soft and nurturing and is peaceful and unapologetic and just self-evident. You know, it's just, and it's funny. I wanted to ask you too, kind of in closing, that.
Boy, that is a beautiful statement, Amy.
Oh, thank you.
That is really going to help women heal from so much of what we've all been through.
Thank you. And it's funny, sorry, because the timing of this is just kind of something that's been evolving in me as I've kind of rounded the bend of the second half of my life, and someone who's been a health and fitness professional for going on 4 decades now, insane. But it's more important as you get older, and you can't get away with as much, I think, once you're over 40. So our self-care, ladies, has got to start like yesterday. And there's a lot you can do. I heard James Wanless say his birthday today on Earth Day, and I went to a webinar with him celebrating his birthday. And he was saying there's a difference. It's okay to get older, but you don't want to be old. You don't want to act old. You don't want to feel old. You can get older, but being old is different. And it's same as being beautiful and all that. It just takes a little TLC. It's not going to just happen, but you've got to do it. And it's the way you wash your body. It's the way you put on your makeup. It's the way you brush your hair. You do it in a loving way like you would do for your child. You know, that's the self-care. That's the taking care of yourself. And that's the kind of stuff that I think makes you feel young and beautiful and loved by yourself.
Right. And it protects you in some ways from being harmed, from being in abusive relationships, because you care about yourself and you have a sense of worth that tells you that you are worth more. And that it is a very protective thing when you're able to get that from yourself and you don't need it from another relationship to validate you. Because sometimes the relationships around us aren't validating. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes the people in your family are not validating you.
Oh, God, no.
And so being able to validate yourself and say, I'm a valuable being. I am worth taking the time with myself and caring for myself, retreating with myself, relaxing with myself, creating, exercising with myself. I am worth all of this, and I don't need anybody else to tell me whether they think I am or not, because I think I am. And that is protective.
I've never thought of it like that. And it is so true. Because you're showing the world that you have value, which is going to repel all of those, type of people that are looking for victims that they can kind of,
and gaslighters, right? Because they can't gaslight you because you know that you're okay inside. You know that you're valuable. And it serves as protection. So your self-care is also your protection.
Right.
In a world where, people are looking for their next victim.
I love it. That's just so good. That's just so good.
Well,
and you know what?
And I just heard my client pull up outside.
Yes. Okay, so that's just a beautiful place to end because it's very empowering. Sarri, how can people find you? Where would you like to direct them, please?
So I have a website, sarrigilman.com.
With 2 R's.
2 R's. Yep. Yeah. And there's a YouTube channel you can visit. I have a newsletter that goes out monthly, usually me interviewing someone. And there are books and things that you can find wherever books are sold. So wonderful to be here, Amy. I'm so excited that your podcast thrives and continues and that you are thriving.
Well, you've got a lot to do with it. Sarri. Again, I don't say it lightly. You have been one of my mentors that have been very impactful on me reprogramming my little brain. And I'm forever indebted. And I would love to have you back and share on Cocoon if you'd like. I know you are very much in demand, but I'll just say that one last time. You've got my contact info. Please come back on.
I'd love to.
Anytime.
I would love to. That's a memoir, so we can talk about that. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to get the book. We'll have you back on, and we're going to let you go to your next appointment. Everybody, I know you enjoyed it. Please check out her work. Please share this important work. God knows we all need it, don't we? And share the show, and we'll see you next time on Awakening Aphrodite.